Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome, 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 welcome to another in a continuing series of SkySwitch webinars. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. I'm Andy Abramson, the Chief Marketing Officer for SkySwitch, and today we have a very special guest, a longtime friend, a colleague, a peer, a person who I've known in the telecommunications industry for more years than I think either of us care to admit. The one and only, the magical, the magician himself, Jeff Dworkin, the managing director of the Cloud Voice Alliance.
Hey everybody, how you
Jeff,
doing? This is Jeff. Sorry to step on you there. Yeah, I missed my cue already. That's it. The show's ruined. I've stepped on
Jeff,
my intro.
if I could make you disappear, I would. Everybody, you don't know, but Jeff has a alter ego, an alternate life. He's a magician, and he's quite good at it. So today, we are going to magically educate you all about your customer journey. It's all based upon content and support. And Jeff has been working on the Cloud Voice Alliance with SkySwitch for well over a year. The Cloud Voice Alliance is here to help you as an equalizer against the really big brands, against the brands who have millions and millions and millions of marketing dollars to do things. Jeff is what I call a magician when it comes to marketing. He's a marketing magician. As a matter of fact, Jeff, you may want to start using that name, the marketing magician, because you really know how to find great resources and great strategies to help people market better, faster, and for far less money, which when you're competing against the big guys, being a smart guerrilla marketer, that's gorilla with a U, not an O, being a smart guerrilla marketer really helps because you're able to do things like the way the samurai, the Aikido masters do, using the opposition's own weight against them, working counterweight to their thinking and being able to attack them on their weak spots by just being nimble, quick, smarter, faster, better, without spending a lot of money. So today, we're going to talk all about customer journeys fueled by content and support. If you're not already tuned into Jeff's regular activities at the Cloud Voice Alliance, I suggest you quickly and readily jump over there to see what's going on. Today, at the end of the broadcast, we'll have Q&A, so keep those questions. You can enter them into the Q&A section of our Zoom chat. And of course, we will also have some SkySwitch swag prizes for some lucky winners. So with that, let me turn it over to my good friend, the marketing magician, Jeff Dworkin.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, want to say hello to everybody. Again, for those of you who are already a SkySwitch reseller, you know you are already in the CVA. If you're not receiving our emails, if you don't have your logins for the website, please reach out to me after the event here. We'll make sure you get your credentials so you can start taking advantages of all the great free stuff that we have on the portal and some other assets that are up there as well that are for your use. Today we're going to talk about the customer journey. And it's something that when you're in the thick of things, when you're in the throes of running a business, you often think you're often in a sales mode, right? You want to get the signature, you want to get the check. For those of you who are old enough to remember this movie, I'm not allowed to play the video that goes with this scene because it is quite profanity-laced, but it is one of the most amazing 9 minutes ever put on the screen as someone comes in to give a sales team a bit of a training, and it's really not a training, it's a talking to. But he is talking about, we're going to be talking today about the right side of his blackboard, all right? Left, you might remember always be closing or always be cobbling. If you're a Saturday Night Live fan, you may have remembered that. But we're going to talk about that, what's going on the right side of this chalkboard. And here's what he's talking about. He's talking about this acronym that is a very sales-centric way of approaching a customer. All right, and it's actually pretty dated. This is kind of an older way of looking at it. But AIDA is, do I have your attention? That's the first step. I have to get your attention. Are you interested in my product? right? Then are you ready to make a decision about this product, and are you ready to take action? It's a very simple model, but it's also very, very sales centric. And you may have heard this in other things: awareness, consideration, decision, or attract, convert, and close. All these words that are been used to try to describe this now. But it's different now. And one of the big reasons things are different, it's all about digital, it's all about social. And what that means is it's all about the content that you can put into the buyer's hands to help them along this journey. Because lots of people are doing research, they are looking at lots of things before they ever contact a person to close the deal. And so we need to figure out how to get that information into their hands in the right way. What's the right information in the right order, so that when they contact you, you know as much as possible about them, and you have the best opportunity to close the deal. Okay. So one of the first things that's different is we've kind of dumped the model onto its side, and this is the sales focused, same kind of words, right? Acquisition, engagement, decision, action. So, but we've made it more of a forward motion kind of feel to the model. Again, this is about semantics. This is about helping you visualize how you are trying to get that person to become your customer. So one of the things that has happened is a change in the words. All right. It's a little more marketing focused. It's a little more customer centric, the way we describe this thing. In the steps that someone goes through to get from you getting their attention all the way to them becoming a customer. And marketing salespeople, now start to get upset with us because we've added even more granularity. But by adding this level of granularity to the model, we actually make it easier to figure out what's the right stuff that we should be putting into the customer's hands to help them walk down this path to becoming your customer.
But
Right?
Jeff, let's explain a little bit
Sure.
what a customer journey is. And let's not just go into the 8 or 9 points that you've got here, 7
Sure.
points you've got. But explain that a customer journey is not really a destination, and it's not really a single route, that often a customer journey takes multiple shapes and multiple, they used to use the word touch points along the way, or just like waypoints. Why don't you take a step back and explain the whole idea of the customer journey and why it's so important to a SkySwitch reseller to understand the basics of customer journey, which really is derived from customer behavior, customer opinion research, customer discovery, and give them a nice basic foundation in customer journey.
Sure. The idea here is, and we talk about a journey. You'll hear a lot of analogies about roads and pathways. And the fact is, you are trying to give the customer multiple options on how to go from that point where they say, I might need this service that you're selling, or I'm interested in this service and the selling, all the way along their own personal journey, pardon the word again, to the point where they are ready to make a purchase. Now, some people may be very analytical and they want all the numbers. Other people may want all the experience marketing. They want to know that other people have felt good about doing business with you. They may want to they may want everything. Those are the people who send me everything and they sit down and they sort through it all, as opposed to people who just want a little bit at a time and move very slowly from the point of where they find you to the point where they're ready to do business with you. So that's really what this is about. Now, we try to chunk it down into something manageable, but the fact is, at the end of the day, the customer becomes a customer however they want to. And what you're trying to do is figure out how to get the biggest percentage of them, or the best fit for you to entering this journey from being a suspect, a person who might be interested in your product, all the way to that place where they're ready to sign a deal with you, and even after that, when they're now a customer that you have to keep happy. Andy, do you think that?
That's really good. Keep going. Now you're starting to roll.
Okay. Well, like I said, I know I have a lot of material to cover, so I want to just, if you think we've got that, I want to move on and just sort of walk through the steps here. And again, we're trying to make a linear model out of this so that it's manageable, but it can be a very circuitous journey, and some people may, they may just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a quick close where someone just sweeps through this, and other people, as Andy was saying, you may have to touch them multiple times on within the same chevron here. That's often, a big problem with sales is that the marketing guys will bring a lead in, and then a sales person calls them once and says, well, do you want it? No, and it's, oh, this guy's going to be difficult, and the salesperson moves on to the easier lead, when oftentimes it can take 5, 6, 7, as many as a dozen touches just inside that last chevron, that last orange opportunity chevron, for a person to make a decision, because most people in the world don't really like to make a decision. I mean, that's, if you've ever been through just the basics of sales training, most of your time is just helping them feel good about the fact that they're making a decision. They very lots of stories about car sales. It's easy. They want the car. They've walked into the dealer. The price is right. Everything lines up, and the person just can't put their name on the paper. And there's all kinds of techniques for salespeople to help a potential customer make that last step. And what we're trying to do is fill in all the information that comes before that moment, so the customer feels most confident about signing their deal, and that the salesman really can be a closing machine. That's a hard thing, man. Asking for money is tough. And you don't necessarily want your salespeople having to go back through this and re-educate and reconfirm people's feelings. You want them to be able to close. So let's walk down this pathway a little bit. So this is the very top of, I still call it a funnel, even though it's no longer in a funnel model. That's, pardon me for being in marketing for so many years. Right? But in the beginning, this is what marketing used to do. Just get their attention, right? Get the branding out there, get their contact information, and then give them to a salesperson who would then take them the rest of the way to being a customer. Okay, so that's kind of the old style marketing, or just the branding component of marketing. Okay, because other than the fact that they know who you are and they kind of know what you sell, you really don't know much about them. So the second phase of this is where they become a prospect. And this is the hope that we, as in the marketing process, can find out just a little bit of information about the customer that will help us move them along. All right. We have a slide about this later, but it's about, well, if they're talking to you and you sell phone systems, they must want a phone system, right? Sell them a phone system. But that may not be the primary thing they're worried about. They may be worried about security, or they may be worried about mobility. And by getting them to convert and maybe give us a little bit of information about what they're most concerned about, we can then become more effective in the next step, which is engagement, because we want to put the information in front of them that answers their primary concern. Right?
Jeff, isn't the goal really engagement as part of the customer journey before you get to the close? You want to be able to get into some type of dialogue that goes beyond the automation.
Absolutely. Well, engagement, really, it comes in as small company people, SMBs, these middle sections kind of get a little fuzzy together. In a bigger organization, you would get to this point where when a customer becomes engaged enough, maybe they've attended a bunch of webinars and you track that, or they've downloaded some white papers, or they visited the same page on your website a number of times, you may then click them over into this marketing qualified lead. And this is where marketing says, hey, this guy needs a salesperson at this point to bring that salesperson into the conversation to take the deal home. The engagement phase is where all this content becomes important, because you are trying to answer the concerns of the customer, so that the salesperson, or that when you go to make the close, the salesperson understands what is this person's primary concern. In our business, is it security? Is it mobility? Is it price? What is, reliability, disaster recovery? These are all points that you can capitalize on. If we can figure this out, then you can capitalize on that in closing the deal, where some of our bigger competitors, their sales process is pretty cookie cutter, right? And they don't necessarily have the ability or have the resources to figure all this out and then put the right person in touch with the customer. They have to sell on this, a couple of very basic things, because they have to scale. We don't have to worry about that. Okay.
What are the things that they have to worry about?
Well, again, in most cases, it's price, right? It's price and convenience. Those are some of the things that you're fighting against. A big company has to make it almost invisible as to who is helping the customer, because you never know who's going to help, because they're big. I mean, remember the whole McDonald's thing with the, you should never know who made your Big Mac. Well, on one hand, that's kind of good, because I can go into McDonald's and no matter where I'm in the country, the Big Mac tastes the same. But then why doesn't everybody go there? Because some people don't want a Big Mac that tastes the same. There are lots of small restaurants that have customization, and they cater to a certain palate, and those are that's kind of the things that we're talking about here. You have to develop your sales and marketing journey, so to say, hey, I'm going to capitalize on this aspect of customer concern, because I certainly can't be the fastest and the cheapest compared to these guys who are and they're making little tiny margins on every deal, because that's the scale model, right? That's how companies, when they want to grow, a Vonage or an 8x8, that's the path you have to take. You cannot spend that much time with every customer if you're going to scale like that.
Or you
Okay.
can. And really, but customers still want to feel loved. They want to feel appreciated, and they actually want to feel that you are paying attention to them.
And this all helps in that. And again, some people do this naturally. Okay. They're great person-to-person salespeople. Some of us are good at the left side of this. Some people are better at the right side of this. But again, we're just trying to quantify this so you can look at what you're doing and say, yeah, this is the place where I need to work, okay? Or this is the place I need to fill in some content, because I can't, I don't necessarily talk well to that point, right? We're going to just jump through some of these middle. As I said, these are kind of where the bigger guys live, where a marketing says, this person has done these things, let me introduce a salesperson and get them to take us home. All right, so that's really the marketing part of this. We're not necessarily going to talk about what's down here, but what is really different about what is going on in marketing, right, is that the marketing process really takes the customer or the prospect deeper into their journey. And pardon me for reading the bullets, but it was important that we bring these points home. So I just, contrary to some input, I wanted to have these here, right? The bigger organizations have entire staffs dedicated to the early phase of this journey, and we don't. We have to figure out how to get to this point in a smarter way. All right. Of course, you have to be dealing with digital, and I always want to stress that it really takes a salesperson to get the deal, and that's a key part there. They're at some point. I don't want anybody to think that any of this automation, that any of these pushing content in front of people ever replace the role of sales, because at the end of the day, the sales guy has to ask for the money, get the contract signed, and that is a tough job. And what we're trying to do is make that easy by paying more attention to the front part of the journey. We hope to make the latter half of the journey a much less painful experience for both the customer and the salesperson. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's talk about engagement. This is the part that everybody misses, right? It's Andy alluded to it earlier in the presentation. the idea, hey, you walked by my booth and I gave you a tchotchke and now I must be able to sell you a phone system. That's not how it works. There's a long cycle of engagement. Some people, it's a very short cycle of engagement we'll talk about too, but for more people, there's some time. There's a lot of touch points. There's a lot of things you can do to get people engaged with your company and bring them from the point of knowing who you are to the point to where they want to do business with you. So let's talk about some of that. So we have the attention getting phase. Again, we're chunking this down to try to make it digestible here, right? We have the conversion point. This is where they go from being an anonymous browser at your website, or somebody walking through an exhibit hall, or somebody who's just watched you speak at a Chamber of Commerce meeting. They come up and say, hey, I like what you're talking about. I'm going to trade you my contact information for a copy of that white paper, or for a demo of your system, or for something along those lines. So that's that conversion point is important. And then you can start the engagement process where you start having a flow of information from you to the customer, hopefully back from the prospect, so that they develop a trust and a comfort level of doing business with you. Again, you guys all have an advantage over your bigger competitors because you are local. You may have a huge advantage about, if your kids are in the Little League or the Scouts together, or your kids go to the same school, you have some touch points available to you that your larger competitors may not have. All right, so let's talk about getting their attention here. So there's two ways to do this, all right? And we talk about product marketing versus solutions marketing. I hope you can see the difference in the graphics there. But I always use the model, the description of a Home Depot or a Lowe's. If a carpenter walks in and says, I want a hammer, all you have to do is point them to the shelf of hammers, and they will decide what is the right hammer for whatever they're doing, right? And that's what I talk about in product marketing. If somebody comes in and says, I want this, 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 and that, then all you have to do is shove your product information in front of them and go, I have this, I have this, I have this, and I have that, and I have it at the price you want. Let's do a deal. Wouldn't it be great if all deals went that way? But that's really...
Are you playing Monty Hall and let's make a deal?
Let's make a deal. And that's what it is. If you're in a market where you're the hot product, I mean, I remember this way back in the days when Asterisk first came out. I worked for a company, and it was like all we had to do was say, we know Asterisk, and we have boards for Asterisk, and the people just walked in the door, and you could just make deals all day. It made marketing very easy. But later, as you had more competitors and there was more features, suddenly the guys who were the good deal makers weren't the most successful salespeople. It was the guys who were the most engaged with their customers and learned to understand what their problems were that made a much better living at that company, right? And that goes over to solutions marketing, where they may not even know that they have a problem, and you are going to help them identify what the situation is. They may come and say, my phone system just died, right? That's all they know. They think they need a phone system, but they don't know any of the other newer stuff that goes about it. So you want to hand them these things that will help them define their problem. That's what we talk about, building trust. These guys know what they're talking about when it comes to this this problem. I remember there's one old story of a guy who did blacktop, and he wasn't doing the greatest, but then he changed over his whole website simply to educate customers about what to do and what not to do when getting your driveway repaved. And you and I may go, what? That doesn't sound like it's very deep, but this guy was an expert in it and found lots of ways to present that information, just like hopefully we're experts in cloud-based voice communication and all the other things we do. So we are going to put things out there to help the customer or the potential customer understand that we know this business and we understand this business. We're going to help define the problem that they have. We're going to educate them, and we're going to build trust. We're not really trying to sell them anything when we're doing solutions marketing. We're trying to teach them. eventually we have to get to product marketing because they're going to want to know about your product. These things are not mutually exclusive, but in the modern marketing sense of marketing, you need them both, right? Unless you happen to have that lucky customer who walks in and knows exactly what they want, and you can deliver, you can just put it in their hand with a couple of cut sheets and they go, we love you, sign the deal, let's go install. Okay? So with the content, and we're going to talk about, it doesn't really matter, I'm talking about solutions content marketing here, not necessarily product marketing here, but everything that you put out on your within the contents round, I tend to talk about digital a lot. Whether you push it out on your website or it's a handout, it has to have a purpose, right? You have to know that someone who downloaded this white paper or this spreadsheet or calculator or whatever it might be, if they do that, then they're interested in this other thing, right? And you have to understand that. If somebody downloads a white paper on security from your website and security of a voice system or HIPAA compliance because they're a doctor's office, don't call them up and try to sell them work from home, right? They've already told you by what they've downloaded that HIPAA and security is important to them. So that's where you start the conversation. And you may eventually send them everything, but that first round of stuff you put in their hand should all be more about the topic in which they are interested, right? The other way to look at this is you can look at something that's, hey, this is kind of beginner stuff, and this is kind of advanced stuff. If they're downloading these white papers about questions you should ask before going to a hosted provider, right? But if they're in there and they're looking at your network map or they're looking at SD-WAN stuff or redundancy issues, maybe they're a little technically sophisticated, they're farther down the journey, and you know when you're ready to engage with them, you know at what level they are and you're ready to start talking to them. All right, and that puts them onto, again, I talk about list marketing and email marketing and SMS marketing a lot. Pardon me, that's part of my background as well. But that, when you put them onto the list or in the matrix of where they fit in your sales process, it tells you where they belong in the matrix.
But isn't it important, Jeff, with all this, when you're talking about lists, to really manage the list, not just have a list?
Of course. Now, again, I'm trying to keep this at a high level. How you address that list, it could just be, hey, I call everybody up, right? It could be, that's how you manage your list, right? You put them into a CRM, and you give them a call and you say hello. There are other companies which may put together a sequence of emails, right, that asks them, tries to get them to engage, and the purpose of every email ends with, hey, if you're ready to see a demo or you want to set a meeting, please click this button, and in marketing, that we call that the call to action, right? We are trying to get them to do something in response to our touch points, right? And maintaining your list and keeping your lists up to date, particularly if how you sell and what you are selling, well, the longer the sales cycle is, or the more duration, the longer that the selling opportunity is, the more important it is to keep your lists up to date and to manage your lists. You may sell them product A today, and 3 months later, you may know there's an opportunity to sell product B. I mean, what's going on right now is a perfect example of this. Let's say you went out there and you had a great big list of a great big list of customers that you had sold Cloud Voice to. But you weren't necessarily keeping, you had their billing address, and I've worked for companies, all they have is the billing person. Once the deal is closed, they don't care, they send the bill, and that's really the list they're managing, and they don't keep up the relationship with the buyer or the decision maker. And in this case, where you had this whole work from home requirement suddenly come into play, wouldn't it have been great for that company to have a list of all the decision makers who bought the phone system in the first place, or if somebody had left the company, who their replacement was, so they could then have an easy entree into that customer to upsell them even more. So that's why it's important to keep your lists up to date, and whether it's email or phone calls or even at the Chamber of Commerce meetings or something like that. Okay?
Yeah, what you're talking about is having a depth chart. And just like in sports, the football teams, baseball teams have a depth chart. They know who the starter is going to be, the replacement coming in off the bench, the person who's going to replace that person. Think about it in pitching. The coach, the manager says, I'm going to pull the starter. I'm going to go with a lefty because the next guy who's coming up the bat's a lefty, and I want to be able to throw the ball inside deep and jam him up, not a righty. And then he goes, oh, wait a minute, they're doing a switch. They're going to do a pinch hitter. I better go with a different relief pitcher. That's having a depth chart so that you know who to go to. And oftentimes, one of the biggest mistakes that all small business owners make when they're working with customers is they don't try and get past that decision maker to know who else is involved. Because all of a sudden, that decision maker may be thinking, I'm going to expand my business. I'll let so-and-so handle the telephony service deals, our IT stuff. And you don't know who this guy is, and he comes out, and or woman, and they've got their own friends. And pretty soon, you're the odd company out because the new guy who you didn't take the time to know over the 2 or 3 year period says, that Jeff guy, he never even said hi to me in 3 years. All he did was deal with the owner. Well, you know what? This power's now mine, and I'm going to make the decision, and Jeff is out. So it's real important to know beyond the signer, beyond the boss. You still got to keep that relationship going. But when the time comes and there's a change in who makes the decisions, you want to be a known quantity. That's what Jeff's saying.
Okay, that's a great point. Thank you. All right, so this is just a couple of things. If we look at that getting attention moment, all right, there are all different ways to do that. And again, I cannot necessarily go into, what your website, you have your website, but is your website just a brochure? Or does your website have calls to actions and forms and ways to get attention and convert? And how do I get people to my website? And once they're there, how do I want them to move through the website, right? So, and over in the real world, you're getting referrals from people. You can do direct mail. You can do third-party webinars. You can do advertising. There's all different ways to get their attention. And all I'm trying to make a point here is that once you have their attention, you have to do something with it, right? I've got your attention, now what? And the one thing we want to make sure, I'm running, where time is a consideration here, but this is called too long didn't read, right? This is what we want to avoid. When we just meet someone, it's very tempting to push a whole bunch of stuff in front of people and convince them that you're the expert and here's my 12-page white paper about why this is great and the problem is a lot of people in the information overload world that we're in, that kind of stuff just glances off. It's too long, I didn't read it, even if you're the best solution, I don't have the time, okay? So you need to think about what we call short form content sprinkled all over your website, or the things that you hand out at trade shows or when you speak. It has to be concise, right? People are probably early in their buying cycle. It's a little crumb of something that they pick up, and the point of it is not to close the deal on this little crumb of information. It's to lead them to the next step until you can get to the in-depth pieces where you're really educating them and you're really trying to learn more about them. So just remember, it may be better to do, like if you have a blog, you can do a summary. You may have a 12-page white paper on SD-WAN or redundancy or distributed office technologies, but your blog post may only be 200 words, a quick summary of one chapter of that paper. If you want to read more, go over there and get the paper. Because if you just put the 12-page paper in front of them, they won't read it, or they'll sign up to get the paper, and then they'll forget that they ever signed up for it, and it comes in the email and they throw it away, and it just makes more work for you. So putting out short form content, little digestible bits, it's important to getting people into your organization and starting down their customer journey with you?
Well, the whole idea of what you're talking about is referred to as complementary content, and it complements the main piece of content that you're looking for someone to read. It might be a white paper, it might be a case study, it might be a long opinion piece, but the complementary content, and our good friend at TMC, Rich Tarani, he's real good at this. He'll write a blog post in his blog, and then he'll link to a longer piece that either he or Eric Lanask or someone else wrote at TMC, and then that post will link back to something else, usually a TMC event, where the company was, or some piece of video. And what they're doing is they're keeping you engaged and they're educating you about the particular topic, service, company. So when you're creating the short form content, you're creating it in the idea of a parallel universe, that there's this main piece and then there's short pieces. So here's a good example. You can take all these short pieces, put them together and turn them into an ebook. And then you can offer the ebook as a download. So what you're doing then is you're taking the short pieces, you're repurposing them again, you're using them in places like Twitter or Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, even as keyword ads that you're buying. You're putting it into other blog posts, and it's leading them to a landing page to download your ebook. And once they've downloaded your ebook, you've got their name, their email address, maybe their company name, maybe their phone book. That's how you use short form content cohesively in a parallel or complementary way, so that your efforts turn into a journey for the prospect, and then you get to engagement, and then you get to a customer.
And this is one of the things, just so you know, from the viewpoint of the Cloud Voice Alliance, we are working towards, this is on one of the things that's on our roadmap, is to be able to produce an ebook that you can break down into multiple chapters and use on your blog, and have the ebook all branded for you, so you can use it in exactly the way that Andy's just described. Okay, so there's short form content. We talked about engagement a little bit. I'm gonna jump over this. We've talked about building trust and thought leadership, and I just want to make this is kind of a salesy thing about when you are engaging with people and engaging with prospects. You want to think about, are you a vitamin or are you a painkiller? Okay, vitamins are what you need every day, right? You're gonna take one of these every day. Once you start taking them, you may take them forever, right? And on one hand, I mean, that's one particular kind of product, and then the other kind of product is the painkiller. I have a pain and I want a pill for it now, and I'll pay whatever you want to help me get over this pain. And this is one of the ways to think about your products. Again, the recent pandemic has kind of shown we can be both, right? Is a cloud-based voice system a vitamin? It's kind of a boring way to sell. It's something you got to have. It's nice to have. It's a luxury. You get it every day. But what happened was when everybody had to work from home, suddenly we became a painkiller. You got all your people moving home. We can show you how to do that, and it certainly accelerated the tempo of the sale if you were prepared for it. Okay, and this is something that we all have to think about, right? Is, maybe at one point, maybe we start out as a painkiller and we become a vitamin, or do we start out as a vitamin or become a painkiller? It's not like I really have a great answer for you, but it is something to think about in how you do your sales and marketing approach. So I just wanted to point it out here because I think it's kind of important.
Okay.
All
I
right.
think vitamins are always better than taking pain pills.
But sometimes pain pills are what sell, and that's the dilemma, right? Right. The getting your people, if whatever that next thing is, we are now all prepared. When there's a big rush to get people working from home, we're now prepared to answer that pain. So again, are you answering pain, or are you a vitamin? Think about it when you're working on your stuff. Okay. And more about building interest. Okay. a bunch of different kinds of longer form content that can be used. As Andy said, you leave little breadcrumbs, but this is where they get to, so that you can convert them and get that contact information and then really start the sales process. And some of this, we have this kind of stuff that we're talking about here, like over there on the right hand side, you'll see that's our work from home video, right? There could be discussion whether that's, in the current crisis, that might have been attention getting, but in a regular sales process, that work from home video may have been more of long form, building interest. We understand this problem. We understand that problem. We're working on a new video for the reminder service from SkySwitch. So these are all things that when you see that a customer is looking at your product or your website and maybe they're viewing these videos, you get a sense of what they're interested in and what they're looking at. Here's pictures of, look at that, that's me and Eric Lanask, who Andy just mentioned. We did a quick stand-up video at Vectors. That's on the website, and there's also a white paper about the topics that we talked about, so people may watch the short video and then go look at the white paper. And then we have our training series as well. This is stuff, whether you gate that and ask people for maybe you give that to them after they're a customer, because that shows, or it's something you can show them before the sale, but they can't have until after the sale, to show that you are an expert. You have all the information. You're not going to leave them hanging by themselves. You have your training stuff. So these are all different kinds of pieces of long form content that can go into that trust building. We're the experts. We understand what's going on in this space kind of material. All right. So we're coming into the end of the slides, and then I'm going to do some quick demos here. But this is really what I want to talk about, that your content is the fuel of your marketing. And if we got any motorheads, you'll recognize carburetor, right? There's fuel, there's air, and how you mix the fuel, which is the content, and the air, which I talk about being relevance in time, getting them the right information at the right time when they're ready to read it. How you mix those two can indicate exactly, or can be indicative of how your sales process is going to go. And we talk about running rich, right? Where you put more. Sorry. Andy, do you know cars? Did I get this right? You put more air into the mix, you run rich, you get more power, you run cooler, run lean, you can run hotter and faster, but you might damage your engine, you'll burn it. In this case, you might burn out all your content because you're pushing too much in front of them too fast. If you go the other way and you space your stuff out, you put it into their hands in the wrong timeline, they may be on to making a decision with someone else. So this is it's just another way to think about how to mix how to use your content as part of your marketing plan, all right? And the idea here is always we want to be creating and delivering the right content at the right time based on the current goal, whether that's we need to get them in the door, we need to get them to a product demo, we need to convince them that we're the best solution, we need to convince them that we have a solution where we're the best solution for them. All those steps along the journey can be driven by content and good calls to action. And you want to get it right and get a race car, or you get it wrong and you may have one of these. So that's where we are. And I wanted to just bring up another piece, just as an example. Andy and I can have a little discussion. I think you're all familiar with our cloud versus premise explainer video. So Andy, what do you think? Where in the customer journey do you think this particular video belongs? Do you have an opinion?
It depends on the type of customer you're talking to. So if a company is already what we call cloud native, you don't even want to show this to them because they're already there. You don't have to explain what hosted is because they've already self-selected out. And that means, by the way, cloud native, they were born in the cloud. They started in the cloud. Companies that are great examples of that are Uber, and Lyft. They were born in the cloud. They've never had a hosted piece of software or hardware,
Premise-based.
anything on premise at all. It's cloud, not even hosted, it's cloud. Then you've got cloud first. These are companies which have already made a decision that anything they do is going to become cloud, and they've migrated from premise or hosted to cloud. And then you've got your cloud ready. And then the cloud ready folks are who needs to see this. And they actually need to see this probably at stage 2 or stage 3 of your engagement with them. First, you have to hook them. And now you've got them and you're communicating with them, and you want to educate them on the difference between cloud or premise. And what you want to be able to show them is how much more efficient cloud is, but also in there is you turn CapEx expense into OpEx expense.
And
that's
Andy,
a big thing.
to what I'm thinking, in that particular case, may actually be attention-getting information, because it demonstrates that you as a vendor understand, like as you said, they're cloud ready, Andy, and we're thinking about going to the cloud at this point for our phone system. And they watch, this is an early piece, they found, these guys get it. Oh, and they understand the problem. And it is that thing that moves them onto, all right, these guys have a solution that makes sense for me. Now we have to show them we have the best solution and that we've solved the problem for other people just like them. That's further down the journey for them. But for that particular company, this is the piece that as I said, gets their attention, because they know that you understand their problem. Right? So now we talk about the folks who know nothing about the cloud, right?
Oh, first you have to educate them on the benefits of cloud, and then you can educate them on the benefits of cloud telephony.
Right. They may not even know what cloud telephony is. Showing them this thing is a waste of time. I know I've worked with some other companies. I made the mistake. I'm sure we went out there, we did AdWords, and we did conferences, and we went to local business things, and we talked about the cloud, and the response wasn't great. And after a couple of months of this, I said, wait, let's just sell phone service. And because of the geography where they were and the businesses they were addressing, as soon as they stood up and said, we sell phone service, suddenly they had an influx of leads, right? And then they were able to tell people, by the way, we have cloud service. And let me tell you why a cloud or a voice solution is better than a Prem solution. So,
Jeff, most customers don't care how your technology works.
Mm-hmm.
Only the real, get in under the hood, IT-led, nerdy, geeky type of company is going to care if your service works. They're going to assume you're a professional. You've already made a decision to deliver a great service, and cloud becomes. Now, if they ask you, is it cloud? You say, of course it is. In this day and age, who wouldn't want to be in the cloud? But the fact is, cloud is becoming ubiquitous. The fact that it's almost like you can't get a DSL line anymore. It's impossible. You may have one, but they're not installing, at least the major phone companies, they've stopped installing DSL a few years ago. Well, so the same thing is, companies should be thinking, why would I even want to go with a premise-based solution? Why would I want to have to maintain hardware, make sure all the updates are done, make sure the updates don't break everything else I'm doing? That's your problem. You're the telco company. You solve it. I'm paying you the money to make it possible.
Right.
So while we all know the cloud is where it's at, for those people who say, gee, I'm looking at buying a phone system. I want to, I have this big data room that we put things in our warehouse, and those are the ones you have to show the cloud versus premise explainer video.
Right, and all I'm trying to, the point here of this is that when to use the content, it depends. It depends on who you're addressing and where you're addressing them. And that's the kind of thing I want you to think about, because one of the things that CVA does, in addition to getting me as a resource, remember, you guys can always, if you're a member of the CVA, you can always reach out to me, talk to me. You've got, what did you call me? Magic Marketing, Mr. Magic
Marketing magician,
Marketing Magician.
the marketing magician.
I'm here to help you guys deal with this and talk through this and figure this stuff out. The organization, so that's the benefit of me being part of this organization. But we also have all this stuff for you to use. And I'm going to jump out of the presentation here real quick and over to our portal. If you are a member of the Cloud Voice Alliance, hopefully you've been here. You have a login. If you don't have a login, reach out to me. I'll get you one. But we have a whole bunch of marketing resources here, right? Hopefully, if you're in the CVA, you've got your badge that you can put on your website that helps identify you as someone who is part of a big organization that supports this industry and helps drive this industry. We have our rebrandable videos. That's the section here. There's 5 of them now. We're working on a couple of more. We did a poll a few weeks ago, and we're now working off that information. We jumped in with the work from home video. The poll actually went out before COVID hit, so that's why the next one up will be the reminder service, and you can have all these and to use whether they're on your website or part of an email campaign. The training stuff is here. You can't download it from here, but if you can look at it all here. Remember, the T46 video training is completed, 26 video lessons that actually this goes onto your website. And so you can, oh, sorry. I hit the wrong thing there. And we're now working on the T54 training as well. So if you're interested in T54 training, let me know. The faster, the more people who are interested, the more resources I can put on getting these 23 video lessons converted over to reflect the T54 as opposed to the T46. And then the last thing I wanted to show you, we also have our forums as well. That's the place where you guys can talk amongst yourselves. That's great. And we also have the dashboard. The rebranding, this is the important part of content, and pardon me for rushing because I know we're up against the top of the hour.
Oh, we're fine. And by the way, anybody's got any questions, please put them in the Q&A. We do want to get your questions. And remember, if you don't ask questions, you're not usually eligible for the prizes. I'm giving out the little secret. I mean, this is like exposing how the magician does his trick. We look first for people who ask questions, because the purpose of a webinar, one of the things that Jeff talked about with customer journey is engagement. So if you're just sitting back and you're lurking and you don't think you've got a question that is worthy of answering from Jeff or myself, you run the risk of not winning a prize.
All right, so then I'm going to wrap up. Just when you get here to the rebrandable product sheet section, you click on this button. If you're not set up, if this doesn't work for you, please contact me, and you'll end up right here. And this is our Cloud Voice Alliance portal. Up here in the upper left-hand corner, this is one of my fake companies I have. You put your company information here under this little edit thing, put a load your company logo, load your personal information here, and watch how easy it is. Let's look at that SMS white paper that we talked about. I'm going to go here. All right, there it is. I put it right up at the top so it's easy to find. You click on it just like that. It loads up, and if you put your logo and your contact information in the right place inside the portal, this automatically configures the paper for your brand. And here comes the paper. There it is. It has the Ghost Point logo on the paper, and in the footer it has your address. You can now download a high-res version for a print campaign. You can download a low-res version if you want to put it on your website as a convertible asset. You can use it as part of an email. It's completely up to you how you want to use it. And in this portal, there is even a way for you to upload your contact list and email this to your entire contact list right out of the portal. And again, if you're going to do a campaign, an email campaign, please call me. I want to help you make sure that your calls to action associated with the email campaign are valuable. The point is not necessarily, remember, we talk about engagement and education, but we want that customer to take action and get back to you as well. Then I'm going to show you one more thing here. Over here in the filters section, you can see there's 100 different PDFs here. You simply have to pick the product you want. I want, well, the UCAS cut sheet, all right? And I want my company colors are kind of red, so I'm going to pick the red version. And comes in two styles right now. We have the corner. This one's called triangle, and this one's style is called block. So I'm going to pick the triangle version. Okay. There's a new filter going in here. We only have one of them done. It's called, there's going to be individual, where it pulls the contact information from your personal profile, puts your name, your email, your phone number on it, versus the organizational persona, which puts the company name and the info at your company email address on it. But once you're here, once you found it, you click the button and, excuse me, it formats itself right up for you. It has your logo, looks right, looks great. Hopefully if your company colors have some red in them, you can use this one, and it comes with your contact information on it, complete. This one comes out of my personal. Again, high resolution if you want to print, low resolution if you want to email. One other thing we are working on for you, hopefully this is something you'll be able to take advantage of, is a newsletter. Same deal. You'll click here. This is just coming live. I probably should keep it to myself until it is live. But the CVA is going to write a newsletter every month. All right. We'll pick the pictures, we'll get the authors, and it's all a self-contained newsletter. All right. But it will come branded from you with your phone number, your company name, your information. You can either upload your contact list to the portal and email it to all your contacts right from here. All right. Or you can actually grab the HTML, copy it. If you're using Constant Contact or you're using MailChimp or something else, you'll be able just to grab the HTML, stick it into your email marketing program, and bam, you have a newsletter that can go out once a month. And this is something we're really working hard to figure out the best way to get the content into this newsletter for everyone's benefit, because keeping that, whether it's a monthly newsletter or a quarterly newsletter, as Andy said, it's one of the most important ways to keep your list going, so that, and to keep your list fresh, so that even so, because people get your newsletter and then send it to someone else. So it's all very important, and it's all here, and it's what we're working on for you. So that's the quick and dirty, and we're ready to go to Q&A if I'm ready to stop talking. Andy, did I
It's so
cover
important.
everything?
Yep. Jeff, it's so important that with newsletters and other forms of communication that you exercise your relationship with the community. If you don't exercise your community, the community will atrophy. It's like a muscle. So with that, first question comes from Bill Smith. Bill, I hate to say it, but you're not a first-time caller, first-time listener. We're thrilled to have you every week. Thank you for joining. He asks, Jeff, do you have a list of questions to help determine what potential customers are in need of? I translate that to, do you have a list of questions to help identify the services that they want?
No, I do not, but that's a great suggestion. I think that's maybe a piece of information that we should put on the, tell you what I'm going to do. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to go open that conversation on the forum. Let's help each other out, okay? And let's get that discussion going on the forum. Or what do you think are the right questions to ask a prospect to help determine what their points of interest are? Let's get that conversation going, and then I can formalize that into a document as soon as we have some good content over there. Hopefully that works for you, Bill.
And then Bill also says he gauges the degree of technology that I will approach with based on whom I'm speaking to. If it's an IT person, I'll go technical and then talk about the benefits. With a non-technical person, I'll start off with the needs, meaning what's their pain point, and then go into solutions, which are the benefits. So Bill's given some good thinking there. Let me go to another question. Thomas Luxa wants to know, what is the timeline for completion of the T54W video?
It will take about 3 weeks to do. I just have to make sure we have the need. And a lot of people, we did a survey. I'll be sending out an email to everyone, and I got to confirm. I mean, we put a lot of work into the T46, and not a lot of people have taken our offer to get that onto their website. So I'm going to be calling everyone who said they want the T54 video, and I'm going to be confirming with you that you'll use it, because I don't want to expend the time and the resources until I'm sure that people will use it. So you can wait for me to call you, or you can email me right now and say, I want it, call me, and we'll start talking, okay?
Next question comes from Bill Smith. Is there a cost of using MailChimp via the CVA?
Is there a cost? No, if you use the email marketing program that comes through the portal, that is free, and it is equivalent. There's an equivalent program, whether you're using MailChimp or Constant Contact. You can actually use the portal for that function and drop the monthly expense of using MailChimp or Constant Contact. So if you want help figuring that out, but that function is built right into the portal, and you
Last
can.
I looked, Jeff, MailChimp has a free use until 1,000 in your list. If somebody wants to use it now, but here's an idea, Jeff. You may want to approach service providers like MailChimp, HubSpot, Constant Contact, and others, and ask them for a CVA discount code, because they're constantly looking for referral partners, and that will help save CVA members a little bit of money, those that offer that, and it may even put some money into the CVA coffers. So we'll go to the next question here.
Before you move on, I'm going to give you you're ahead of me, okay? They're one of the bigger marketing automation companies has approached me. They're a little pricey. They're up there with HubSpot, but they will give us a significant discount if you want to. I don't know if I want to say it here, but if you're interested in HubSpot or something like that, give me a buzz and I'll get you some great pricing that we've arranged. The deal's not quite sealed, but so I don't want to put it here on the recording. But if that's the level of automation you're looking at, please give me a call.
Okay, next question from Darren Sidweeks. Can we edit anything on the white papers?
No, but I do have the, you can rearrange logos and the fields, but within the paper itself, no, but I'm perfectly happy to give you the text content. If you want to do a new layout on your own, we have no problem with that. If you noticed on that page, the white paper is not included, but there is, like, for all the cut sheets, you can just download the copy and use it at will.
Another question from Thomas is, will CVA be offering any personalized marketing support for members, for example, coming up with calls to action or AdWords support for member websites?
Yes, give me a call. That's what I'll say.
Jeff says give you a call. Send him an email.
That's what I meant.
Get on his calendar. It'll be a lot easier, because all of you are going to be calling Jeff. You'll never get through. Next question comes from Joran Carlson. Can you go over what the cost will be to be a CVA member?
We're talking right now between the board of the CVA. We are trying to bring it in at about $88 a month for membership, and hopefully that's. It may be a little more for those who have more than a certain number of seats, and maybe a little less for people who are under a certain number of seats. But that discussion is in the work. The target number is $88, and hopefully we bring you $88 worth of value every month. And if we're not, you tell me what we need to do to make that worthwhile for you.
Well, one comment from Dale Morgan says, I vote for a monthly newsletter. Quarterly is a long time. That would speak to driving value and price of monthly membership. So we'll just put that one in your smoke to pipe it, Jeff.
Okay.
Another question comes from Brian Schmetzer. He wants to know if you've had any marketing success with Terminus or companies like this?
I am not familiar with that company, so I cannot comment. But drop me a note, send me a link. Let me take a look at it, and I'll do some research, and I can get back to you personally on exactly what they do, since I don't know what they do at a hand.
Dale Morgan says he loves the idea of a newsletter because he's no good at writing. That's why Jeff's doing what he's doing. Bill Smith, though, says, for me, making wording adjustments to white papers is important. So I think you have to understand how a white paper gets developed. It's not supposed to be commercial. It's supposed to take a position. It's supposed to explain things. And if it gets too colorful, meaning branded within the content, it goes from being a white paper to becoming a marketing piece. So that's, if you want to make adjustments to what's around the content, Jeff can make that happen. But what's inside the content has been developed to not appear to be a sales piece, but to be a communications item that convinces somebody to make a decision that goes in your direction. So just this, there's a difference between a case study, which is certainly all about you and your company, and a white paper, which is a much higher level, more persuasive, but plain, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't talk about you, it talks about what you do. Is that a good analogy?
Pitchy. It's not pitchy.
Not pitchy.
It's educational. Not, at the most, sometimes if I do a customized white paper, there'll be like a call to action block at the very end that says, if you want to talk to me about this. But otherwise, and that's why white papers are so hard, because you're not, and in marketing in general, you're not supposed to be talking about yourself. You're supposed to be talking about the customer, the customer's problem, the customer's viewpoint. I mean, as a marketing consultant, one of the first things I always do is I run through people's website and I say, show me how many sentences start with the things, we do this, we do that. That's a perfect indication that there's something wrong with your marketing. You have to talk about, here's what you are, and you should be doing. It changes the conversation completely when you think about the customer and not about yourself. Sorry, got a little preachy.
Another comment from Bill as it brings up the subject of case study shells. Is this something the CVA can work on for us?
Absolutely. I have a standard format that I use. I'll help you write those. If you've got a customer who you want a case study for, let's talk.
Last comment is from Darren Sidweeks. Thank you, Darren, for tuning in again. Love having you here. He says, I use both pills, pain pills to solve the immediate problem, then sell them on taking vitamins, the long-term solution to avoid the pain in the future. That reminds me, I've done crisis management work in the past, and I've said to various clients or future clients, you can pay me now to give you your crisis plan, or you can pay me a heck of a lot more when the crisis hits, because it's about a factor of 4 or 5 times the hourly rate when you have to deal in a crisis if you don't have a plan. So you're right.
Wait a minute, you charge for this stuff? What am I doing? No wonder I'm having so much trouble.
Magical, Jeff. Magical. Last question. Can we get Simon Sinek to speak? Sure. Bill, why don't you write me and send me some information on Simon? Maybe better than even waiting till the next Vectors event. Maybe we can invite him to be part of a webinar, either here or on the CVA. Just reach out to me privately with the bio, email, contact details, anything you have. With that, I'm going to say thank you very much, Jeff. We've got a really good webinar coming up next week. Next week's webinar is on Tuesday, June 23rd, same webinar time at 11 a.m. live. And this one is really about the resellers. And we're going to have a group of SkySwitch resellers, some who are members of our Club 1000, some who are doing quite well, who are newer to SkySwitch, talking to you as reseller to reseller of what's working for them right now and why they're seeing success in a time when a lot of businesses are struggling. So we felt we would go into the community. One of the things that I heard when I was at Vectors in October is how the resellers like the bonding and like the interaction with one another. So we're going to have a reseller talking to resellers about what's working webinar next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. I've been wanting to say that for years. No,
All right.
it'll be the same time, same day. So, Jeff, thank you very much for those.
And guys,
of you
remember that interaction is happening over on the forum. So get over there, start some conversations, and talk to each other. That's a resource that's there for you.
So with that, Jeff, thank you very much. I know we ran a little long. Another good webinar. Great to see so many of you weekly with us. And more importantly, thanks for tuning in. And watch out for the email blast that comes from Emily and Erica, who did a great job producing it. In there, we will let you know who wins that very, very sought after, very, very hard to find SkySwitch swag. I'm Andy Abramson. He was Jeff Dworkin, and you're part of the SkySwitch reseller team. Thank you very much.